डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Namaskar. I, Jayjit Trivedi, Assistant Professor, Journalism and Mass Communication, welcome all of you from the Chaitanya Studio of the Jyotirmay campus of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad. Today, we will be discussing MJMC paper number 2, which is Understanding Media, Mass Communication and Journalism. This is lecture of Unit 2, Part 2. So, let us begin. The name of the unit is Origins of Communication, Part 2. The section is Section 1, Birth of Journalism. Now, first of all, let us discuss that what we have learnt till day. In the previous lecture, we had discussed some part of this same unit, that is journalism during the mythological and historical time. Students, you must be knowing that Narad, we have discussed already, that Narad is considered the first journalist from the mythological and historical time. Right? We have already discussed in detail about Narad and his journalism or form of communication. Then we also discussed about journalism during the time of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Right? We have discussed that though Dhritarashtra was blind, he had some help from Sanjay. He would witness the war and he would describe it to Dhritarashtra. That is also form of journalism, right? Now see, what is journalism? Journalism is basically dissemination of information to the people at large. Now, we had also discussed that in these two forms, people at large is not there in the system, but we have discussed that we can say all of these as special form of journalism that you can find in the previous lecture. Now, then there was another thing, that Roman Empire. During Roman Empire, how journalism was done. So, we learned that in 59 BCE, during the tenure of Julius Caesar, there was one journal called Acta Diurna, right? So, these are things which we have already learnt in previous lecture. Please go through the lecture and let us begin with today's topic. Now, we will discuss about Mughal era, journey from Persian to Urdu. Now, what is Persian? What is Urdu? These both are languages. Predominantly, Persian was the language of Mughals, right? Mughals came from the Iranian part, or which we can say Middle East of today's world. From Middle East part, they came and they brought Persian language with them, and from Persian the emergence of Urdu language happened, right? So, we will see that how journalism was also done in those languages and during those era, right. So, now we are focusing on Mughal era. Remember this, we are focusing on Mughal era. Now, so from the Mahabharata era and from the Roman Empire era, we are covering thousands of years and going directly into 1500 AD. Now, I have asked one question in before lecture also, that there is one term called BCE and now it has come AD. You need to write in the comment box that what is BCE and what is AD. Let me know. So, 1500 AD, when Mughals entered India, paper and printing machines had been invented already. So, we all should know that Gutenberg invented printing in Germany. This is an extra information. Gutenberg invented printing in Germany. Tell me the year. In which year he invented printing? Definitely it is before 1500 AD, because we have written here printing paper and printing machines had been already invented, and newspapers were already being printed in some corners of the European continent, especially in Germany, right. Though there is no specific history of journalism and newspapers being published in 1500 to late 1800 centuries, and it is understood that during those days word of mouth publicity that we have already discussed earlier, word of mouth publicity was the chief source of personal and mass communication, right. Now, tell me also that how the word of mouth publicity used to happen. We have discussed already that king or emperor would send messengers to the village or to the city center, and the messenger would disseminate the information or send the message, right. So, this was the position. Now, the early history of journalism is reported in late 1800s. Historians claim that there were some Persian language newspapers and they were published from West Bengal, right. So, this is a claim from historians, right, that some Persian language newspapers were printed from West Bengal. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, right, you all must know who this famous personality is, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Let me know for what he is known, right. We have discussed some of the things here, but one thing I have not mentioned, that you need to write me in the comment box. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy started Mirat ul Akhbar. This was the name of the newspaper. This was published from Calcutta. Now, the new name is Kolkata, right. So, it was published from Kolkata in 1822. So, in which language the newspaper was published? It was Persian language, right. Now, mind it, during 1800s, in those era, what do you think, how literacy would be? Would the people be able to read or write? I do not think so. Many people would know how to read or how to write. They may be knowledgeable, but writing or reading would be scarce for few elites. So, let us come to the other point, which says Roy selected the Persian language for his newspaper because during those times the elite class of the Mughals spoke the Persian language, right. So, very few people could read or write in those times. So, that is why Raja Ram Mohan Roy chose Persian language, so that it could be read by the elite class of that time, right. Now, he wrote about social reforms on issues like child marriage, very important thing, and remarriage of widows. I have left one thing here knowingly, that you can comment in the comment box that what is that which is left. One thing, one social reform that Raja Ram Mohan Roy took, you need to tell me, right. Now, gradually Persian newspapers were replaced by Urdu newspapers. As we discussed that Urdu is derived from Persian only. Now, how Urdu is derived? Let me tell you that Urdu used to be called language of the army, right. We have discussed here the word Urdu comes from the Turkish word, that is Ordu, which means camp or army. It is the language of common people. Now, remember, Persian language is language of elite, it is written here, and Urdu is language of common people. The language is influenced by Turkish, Persian, Arabic, Afghan and the local Indian languages. It took 900 years, nearly 900 years to develop Urdu language. Now, we all know that language is an ever evolving process, right? Whatever language you speak, even English, English has so many words from so many languages, Gujarati or Hindi or Urdu for that matter, all the languages have different words from different languages. That is evolution of language. It is a continuous process and it never ends. Mention some of the words from your language which are adapted in English so that other people can also know this, right. Now, let us look at this, that the first Urdu language newspaper was published by Harihar Datta in 1822 from again Kolkata. Now, mind it, West Bengal and Kolkata especially are predominantly called as cultural hub of India during those times. Many of the things, many of the new things were happening in Kolkata during those times, right. So, let us look at the name of the newspaper which Harihar Datta had started. The name of the newspaper is Jami Jahan Numa, right, Jami Jahan Numa, right. It is called Jami Jahan Numa. What would it mean in Persian? The name is in Persian. Write in the comment box. If you Google it, you will find it. It is very easy and very thoughtful name. This paper was published till 1888, right, from 1822 to 88, that is 66 years total. In 1855, Munshi Harsukh Rai started a weekly called Kohinoor, right. During those days, it had an outstanding circulation of 350 copies. Now, remember that 350 copies during those days is called a very big number. Today, we have newspapers which have circulation in lakhs, right, but 350 copies because the literacy rate, we have already learnt and discussed that literacy rate was very low in those times. So, 350 copies. We need to understand that these copies would not be available for one person only, right. Many, one or two or three people would be reading this newspaper from one paper, right. The number of Urdu newspapers and magazines had touched 35 by 1853, which again dropped to 12 by 1858, right. There was a decline in Urdu newspaper and journals during 1853 to 1858. Now, at the time of partition, we all know that India had partition, India and Pakistan separated, right. So, at the time of partition, some 451 Urdu publications were being published, right. These include newspapers, weekly, fortnightly and monthly magazines. Now, remember, in earlier time when printing was not so readily available, the newspapers used to be fortnightly, weekly or monthly, right. These journals also were published monthly. In the late 50s, according to the registrar of newspapers, there were 513 Urdu publications with total circulation of around 7.48 lakhs. This is a large number and huge number because we are talking about late 50s. Again, the literacy rate was very low, but the language, which is local language, was very much used by people for disseminating information. In 2007-8, the number of daily Urdu newspapers increased to 3,168 and the total circulation figure of newspapers and magazine touched 1.7 crore. Now, students, you must remember that India is the only country which has largest number of newspapers published in vernacular language. Now, what is vernacular language? A local language apart from the English language, right. So, we are the largest producers of newspapers in local languages in the world. So, by this I end this lecture today, and we will see you soon in the next lecture. Namaskar. Thank you so much.
स्वाध्यायः परमं तप